Fairy Fingers by Anna Cora Mowat Ritchie. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Kelly Taylor. Chapter 2, Cousins. Bertha's prediction was verified, and the whole chateau was thrown into confusion by preparations for the coming of the young Viscount. Old Baptiste forsook his garden tools for the whole day to play indoor domestic. Gustave, who daily doubled his role of coachman with that of valet, slighted his beloved horses whose mothers and grandmothers had supplied the de Grémont stables for time immemorial, to cleanse windows, brighten mirrors, and polish dingy furniture. Bettina, the antiquated femme de chambre of the Countess, who also discharged the combined duties of housekeeper and housemaid, flew about with a bustling activity that could hardly have been expected from her years and infirmities. Elise, the cook, made far more elaborate preparations for the coming of the young Vicomte than would have been deemed necessary for the dinner to be given to her master's guests. This band of venerable domestics had all been servants of the family from before the Vicomte's birth, and he was not only an idol among them, but seemed in a manner to appertain to them all. The Countess alone did not find the movement of gladness around her contagious. The coming of Maurice before the departure of Madeleine distressed her deeply, but small troubles and great were incongruously mingled in her mind, for, while she was tormented by the frustration of her plans, she fretted almost as heartily over that set of Sèvres porcelain, which, with the addition of her grandson, would not be sufficient for the expected guest, even if Madeleine dined in her own chamber. Besides, the arrival of Maurice made that arrangement out of the question. He would certainly oppose her banishment, just as Bertha had done, and the day, unfortunately, was Madeleine's birthday. This circumstance would give her cousins additional ground for insisting upon her presence at the festive board. The Countess saw no escape from her domestic difficulties and was thoroughly out of humor. Before Madeleine had awoke that morning, Bertha had stolen to her bedside and clasped the bracelet upon her arm. Light as was Bertha's touch, it aroused the sleeper, and she greeted her birthday token with unfeigned gratitude and delight. But Madeleine had few words to spend in contemplation of the precious gift. She dressed rapidly, then hastened away to make the chateau bright with flowers, to complete various preparations for the toilette of her aunt, to perform numerous offices which might have been termed menial, but she entered upon her work with so much zest, she executed each task with such consummate skill, she took so much interest in the employment of the moment, that no labor seemed either tedious or debasing. Maurice de Grémont had just completed his 21st year when he graduated with high honor at the University of France. After passing a fatiguing examination, he had gladly consented to act upon his father's suggestion and devote a few weeks to enjoyment in the gay metropolis. The Count had no clue to the cause of his sudden return to Brittany. "Aunt, there is the carriage! He is coming! Baptiste, run and open the gate!" cried Bertha, whose quick eyes had caught sight of the coach, which had stopped at the farther end of the long avenue of noble trees leading to the chateau. Baptiste had made all speed which his aged limbs allow. Gustave hastened to throw open the front door. Bertha was on the porch before the carriage drew up. The Count and Countess appeared at the entrance just as Maurice sprang down the steps of the lumbering vehicle. His blue eyes sparkled with genuine joy, and his countenance glowed with animation as he embraced his grandmother warmly, kissed his father according to the French custom, then turned to Bertha, clasped her extended hands, and touched either cheek lightly with his lips. She received the cousinly salutation without any evidence of displeasure or any token of confusion. As the maiden and the youth stood side by side, they might easily have been mistaken for brother and sister. The same florid coloring was remarkable in the countenance of both, save that the tints were a few shades deeper in the visage of Maurice. His eyes were of a darker blue, his glossy hair was tinged with chestnut, while Bertha's shone with unmingled gold. But, like Bertha's, his recreant locks had a strong tendency to curl, and lay in rich clusters upon his brow, distressing him by a propensity which he deemed effeminate. His mouth was as ripely red as hers, but somewhat larger, firmer, and less bland in its character. His eyebrows, too, were more darkly traced, supplying a want only too obvious in her countenance. The resemblance, however, disappeared in the forehead and classic nose, for the brow of Maurice was broad and high, the nose prominent, though finely shaped. His form was manly, without being strikingly tall. It was what might be designated as a noble figure, but the term owed its appropriateness partially to his refined and graceful bearing. "My dear father, I am so glad to see you. Grandmother, it is refreshing to find you looking as though you bade defiance to time. And you, my little cousin, how much you have improved! How lovely you have grown! A year does a great deal for one's appearance." "Yours, for instance," replied Bertha, saucily. "Well, there was abundant room for improvement." Maurice replied to her vivacious remark with a laugh of assent, and, looking eagerly around, asked, "Where is Madeleine?" "Madeleine is busy as usual," replied Bertha. "I warrant she is in some remote corner of the chateau, mysteriously employed. She does not know that you have arrived." "And is she well? My father never once mentioned her in his letters. And has she kept you company in growing so much handsomer during the last year?" "Her beauty needed no heightening," exclaimed Bertha affectionately. "But she develops new talents every day. She sings more delightfully than ever, and lately she has commenced drawing from nature with the most wonderful ease. You should see the flowers she first created."